She thought she'd be fired. But the CEO kissed her in front of his mother and said, "She's the one." She expected to lose her job. Instead, he chose her in front of everyone. But what happened after the kiss? No one, not even her, saw it coming. Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. Kate's fingers trembled as she adjusted the pearl button near her collarbone, the one that always came loose no matter how carefully she dressed. Her breath was shallow, and the silence of the elevator only made it worse. 38 floors up, and with every passing second she felt the walls tighten around her. When the doors opened, she stepped out into the executive level, where the air itself seemed colder, more controlled. Her low heels tapped against the polished marble. She walked slowly, each step echoing louder than the last. She had never been called to this floor before, ever. At the far end of the hallway stood a woman Kate had only ever seen from a distance. Tall, sharp-shouldered, and stunning in a cold porcelain sort of way. Eleanor Hart, Oliver's mother, the kind of woman who didn't speak unless something needed to be handled. And today, apparently, that something was Kate. "Miss Morgan," Eleanor said, her voice smooth but distant, "follow me." Kate swallowed hard and obeyed. They walked into a small but elegant lounge just off the main boardroom, not the kind of place meant for staff meetings, not even the assistants. The door closed behind them with a quiet click that sounded louder than it should have. Kate stood, heart racing, waiting for the sentence. "I suppose you've heard the rumors," Eleanor began, walking to the window, not bothering to look at her, "about you and Oliver." Kate felt her cheeks flush. She clasped her hands tightly in front of her. "Yes, ma'am, but they're not true. I've always kept things professional." Eleanor turned slowly, eyes narrowing. "Professional? You think it's professional to linger at his side at every event? To laugh a little too hard at his jokes? Or maybe to look at him the way you do?" Kate blinked. Her voice caught. I didn't mean to—" "You didn't mean to," Eleanor repeated softly, as if weighing the words. She stepped closer, her heels nearly silent on the thick carpet. "You seem like a good girl, modest, quiet. I can see why he might sympathize. But Oliver is the CEO of a company his father built with everything we had. He cannot afford distractions, especially ones with soft eyes and no family name." That was it. Kate felt the sting behind her eyes, but forced herself to stand straighter. If this was the moment she lost everything, she'd at least walk out with dignity. "I understand," she said quietly. "If you want me to resign, I will. I won't make trouble. I never wanted any of this." Eleanor tilted her head slightly, as if analyzing her. "Good," she said. "I believe that." The door behind them opened. Neither of them turned immediately, but Kate knew that footstep rhythm, steady, grounded, quietly confident. Oliver Hart. Oliver. Her chest tightened. Of all the moments, why now? "Mother," he said, voice calm but firm. "Kate." She turned to face him, and instantly wished she hadn't. He looked tired in a way she hadn't seen before, like he hadn't slept much, like his mind had been running laps around something he couldn't quite catch. But his eyes, those steel blue eyes, locked on hers, and something passed between them, something unspoken but sharp, real. "I asked Kate to be here," Eleanor said coolly. "I thought she deserved clarity." "I agree," Oliver said. He walked across the room, slowly but without hesitation. Kate watched him come closer, unsure whether to speak, to defend herself, to apologize, or just breathe. He stopped beside her, so close she could smell the faint trace of cedar and soap on his skin, so close she could feel the air shift around him. And then he looked at his mother. "She's not a distraction," he said, voice steady. "She's the reason I've been able to function these past 6 months." Eleanor blinked. "Oliver?" "No," he said, interrupting for the first time. "You think I don't notice people? That I keep everything separate? I do, but not her. Kate's breath caught. She's the one, Oliver said. The silence that followed was suffocating. And then, just as Eleanor's lips parted to protest, Oliver turned and kissed Kate, right there, in front of his mother, in front of everything that had always kept them apart. Not a rushed, panicked kiss. Not for show. Not because he was forced into it, but slow, intentional, like he had wanted to do it 100 times, but never allowed himself. Kate stood frozen, lips barely moving, her mind spinning. The weight of the room disappeared. For one impossible second, it was just him and her. The walls, the judgment, the fear, all of it faded. And then he pulled back, just enough to whisper, "You don't have to go. Not unless you want to." Kate opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Not yet. Her heart was pounding so loudly she couldn't think. Eleanor's expression was unreadable. Her lips were pressed into a line, but her eyes, there was something there, not fury, not even disappointment, just realization. Oliver stepped slightly in front of Kate now, shielding her, but then the door behind them opened again. Another voice? "There's a problem downstairs with the press." It was Greg, Oliver's head of PR, his face flushed and voice strained. "They know." Oliver tensed. "Know what?" Greg looked from Oliver to Kate, then to Eleanor. "They know about her." Kate's chest tightened. "And they're not playing nice." For a split second, the entire room stood still, like the air itself had been paused, waiting to see what would happen next. Then the words sank in. "They know about her." Kate's eyes widened, and she instinctively took a small step back, her hand brushing lightly against Oliver's, not holding, just anchoring herself. "What do they know exactly?" Oliver asked, his voice sharper now, but not panicked. Not yet. Greg adjusted the tablet in his hands, tapping frantically. "There are photos. From last week's gala. A few of you too. Talking. Nothing inappropriate, but the headlines are making it sound like you're in a secret office romance. Words like scandal, favoritism, and," he paused, swallowing, "mistress are already trending." Kate's cheeks went hot. Eleanor's expression darkened, arms crossing in front of her. "This is what I feared." Oliver turned to Greg. "Who leaked it?" "No confirmation yet, but it smells internal, someone who knows her name, her role, even her salary." Kate flinched at that last word. Her chest tightened. This wasn't just about rumors anymore. This was about her name being dragged through the mud while she stood helpless, still catching her breath from a kiss that hadn't even finished echoing in her heart. "I can handle it," she whispered. "I can issue a statement. I'll say I was never—" "You don't have to do anything," Oliver said instantly, turning back to her. "But I should," Kate said, forcing her voice to steady. "If people are assuming things, I can clear it up. Maybe if I resign—" "No," his voice came firm. "Final. You're not quitting over other people's lies." His hand reached out, gently this time, fingers brushing against hers, just enough to tell her, "I'm with you." Greg cleared his throat. "We do have a scheduled press briefing in 2 hours. They'll expect a response." Eleanor exhaled sharply. "Then control the narrative. Deny everything. Say it's nonsense, fabricated by tabloids." Oliver didn't answer right away. His eyes met Kate's again. But this time, they searched her face with more weight, a silent question passing between them. Do we hide, or do we tell the truth? Kate didn't respond with words, but her hand squeezed his gently. That was enough. He turned back to Greg. "We're not denying anything." Eleanor's eyes snapped up. "Excuse me?" Oliver turned fully toward her. "I'm done living like every part of my life has to be approved by a committee or a headline. I care about her. That's the story." Eleanor's jaw tightened. "And what happens to your company, your reputation?" "I'll rebuild it if I have to," he said. "But I won't lose her over a lie." The room fell into silence again, except this time it was charged, not with fear, but with choice. Oliver turned to Kate. Do you want to leave for now? I can shield you from the press. She shook her head, quietly but clearly. I've been invisible most of my life, Oliver, but not anymore. If I'm going to be seen, I want to be seen for the right reasons. He smiled softly at her, a smile that felt like a promise. Then, turning to Greg, he said, "Prepare a statement. Schedule a live press conference. Today." Greg blinked. "You want to go on camera?" "Yes," Oliver said, "and she's going to be there too, as my assistant and as someone I trust. Fully." Kate's heart leapt. Not from panic, from something quieter, warmer. Trust. For a man who had always kept everyone at arm's length, he had just pulled her right into his inner world. But before anything more could be said, Eleanor spoke again. And this time her voice was low but steady. "I hope you understand the cost, Oliver. Publicly tying yourself to her means cutting yourself from others, from deals, from alliances." Oliver looked at his mother with surprising calm. "Then let them walk." Eleanor studied him for a moment longer, and for once, her gaze landed on Kate not with disdain, but something harder to name, a mix of suspicion and maybe, just maybe, curiosity. Then she turned and walked out, leaving only the faint sound of her heels echoing in the hallway. Kate exhaled. That was terrifying. Oliver gave a soft laugh. "Welcome to my every Thanksgiving," she smiled, briefly, before her brows furrowed. "Do you really want me standing next to you in front of the press? Won't it just make it worse?" "I want the truth next to me," he said. "And that's you." Kate looked away for a second, trying to hold back the emotion building in her throat. She had spent years making herself small, unnoticed. Yet here he was, choosing her in front of the world. A soft knock came on the door. It was Marla, another assistant. "The downstairs lobby is packed with reporters. Some of them are already waiting by your car." Greg glanced at Oliver. "We've got an hour to prepare." Oliver turned to Kate. "Then let's get ready." But as they stepped out of the room, walking side by side through a corridor full of eyes and whispers, a new text came through on Kate's phone from an unknown number. "You don't belong beside him. You never will. Walk away while you still can." Her blood ran cold. She looked up at Oliver, but said nothing. Not yet. Kate sat in the back seat of Oliver's car, her phone gripped tightly in her hands. She hadn't shown him the message. Not yet. He sat beside her, scrolling through his emails, coordinating with Greg and PR teams. There was tension in his shoulders, but his tone stayed measured, calm, in control. It wasn't the right moment to add more fuel, or maybe she was just scared. The words from that unknown number kept replaying in her mind. "You don't belong beside him. You never will. Walk away while you still can." Every time she thought about it, a chill crawled up her spine. Who would send something like that? The car rolled through the service entrance beneath Hart Tower, where the underground garage offered a quiet way in, away from cameras, from noise, from the headlines flashing outside like firecrackers. Oliver turned to her as the car stopped. "You good?" Kate blinked. "Yeah, just nervous." He studied her a moment longer, as if sensing the crack just under her surface. But he nodded anyway. "Let me do the talking. I'm used to this kind of storm." She smiled faintly. "Not with me in the middle of it." His jaw clenched slightly. "Exactly why I need to handle it right." They entered through the elevator reserved for executives, bypassing the chaos outside. Upstairs, the press room was already filling. Dozens of chairs, cameras, cables, microphones on stands, quiet murmurs like a hive waiting to buzz. Greg handed Oliver a printed statement. "You can read it as is or go off script, but keep it tight. We want to get ahead of it without opening 100 other doors." Oliver glanced over it, then folded the paper and slipped it into his suit pocket. "I'll speak from my side," he said. "Kate doesn't need to say anything. She's here because she has every right to be. not because she owes anyone an explanation. Kate opened her mouth to object, but the look in his eyes stopped her. It wasn't pride. It was protection. She didn't have to be brave every second, not with him. Still, the weight of the message in her pocket burned like a secret too heavy to carry much longer. She tried to shake it off. But then, from across the room, a woman stepped forward. She was younger than Eleanor, maybe late 30s, elegant but with sharper edges, like someone who knew how to smile while slicing you in half. Her name came to Kate like a flash. Marissa Dean, HeartCorp's lead investor, and Oliver's ex. "Quite the press day," Marissa said, her voice smooth as glass. "Didn't think I'd be back here under these circumstances." Oliver stiffened. "You're still a board advisor. You're always welcome." Marissa's eyes flicked to Kate. "So she's the new face, huh?" Kate held her gaze, refusing to flinch. "Some of us actually came up the hard way," Marissa continued softly, without charm or softness or proximity to the CEO's desk. Kate bit the inside of her cheek. Oliver didn't react, but his voice was low. "Marissa, don't. I'm not here to fight," she said. "I'm just here to observe. It's amazing what kind of moves people make when they think they're untouchable." Kate saw it then, not jealousy, but calculation. Marissa wasn't interested in gossip. She was watching for weakness, waiting for a misstep. The moment passed. The PR assistant waved them forward. Showtime. Oliver gently touched Kate's back. "You don't have to stand beside me if you're not ready." She looked up at him, inhaled slowly, and nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." The lights were blinding. The cameras rolled. Reporters began murmuring as Oliver stepped up to the podium, Kate just behind his right shoulder. He adjusted the microphone. "Good afternoon," he began. "Thank you for coming on short notice. I'll keep this brief and honest." The room fell into silence. Over the past few days, there's been speculation. Stories published that suggest personal connections within this company have crossed professional lines. I'm here to say one thing clearly. Kate's chest tightened. Oliver looked straight into the cameras. Kate Morgan is not a scandal. She's not a distraction. She's not here because of favoritism or manipulation. She's here because she's earned every inch of where she stands, with grace, with commitment, with professionalism. A flicker of surprise ran through the press room. Keyboard stilled. "I care about her," he continued. "That part is personal, yes, but it doesn't discredit the incredible work she's done or the respect she's earned from everyone who's ever worked with her." He turned slightly, letting his eyes find hers. Steady, present. "I won't hide it, and I won't let the noise ruin the truth." A few camera shutters clicked. Someone muttered, "Wow." Oliver gave a final nod. "That's all." He stepped away from the mic. No Q&A, no wiggle room. It was bold, it was dangerous, it was real. And for the first time, Kate felt the tide shift. People weren't just gossiping anymore. They were listening. As they walked off stage, Greg whispered, "You just gave us a storm and a sunrise. The internet's gonna melt." Oliver ignored the chaos and looked at Kate. "You okay?" Before she could answer, her phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. New message. "He doesn't know what you've done. But I do." Kate's knees went weak. Oliver noticed instantly. "Kate?" She showed him the screen. His face went cold. "How long have these been coming?" "Since earlier today. I didn't want to distract you." "You think this is about distraction?" His voice was tight. "This is threatening." Kate looked down. "What if they know something I don't? I've never—" He stopped her gently. "Hey, whatever this is, we'll handle it." But as he reached for her hand, his phone buzzed too. He glanced at the screen and froze. Then handed it to Kate. An anonymous message with a photo attached. It was a picture of her, taken through the window of her apartment last night. Kate stared at the photo. Her apartment window, second floor, the angle unmistakable, taken from across the street in the dark. The light inside was on, and in the center of the photo, she stood in her living room, one hand brushing her hair, completely unaware. She felt her breath leave her body like a slow leak. "This was last night," she whispered. Oliver took the phone back, jaw clenched. "This isn't gossip anymore. Someone's watching you." She nodded slowly, her voice barely audible. "They're not just watching, they're warning." Oliver looked past her, out the window, not at the street, but like he was watching something deeper. "My father still has eyes in every room, even if he hasn't set foot inside the boardroom in years." Kate blinked. "You think he's involved? If he thinks I'm about to ruin the family name, I wouldn't put it past him." His hands moved fast now, texting Greg, calling security, asking for surveillance, phone tracing, everything. But Kate barely heard the words, because in the corner of her mind, something else had started to rise. A memory, not a fact, not something she could hold, but a question. Who would care this much to stop them? They weren't doing anything wrong. Were they? "Hey," Oliver said, kneeling slightly to meet her eyes. "We're not going to let this get out of control, okay? I'm having someone stay at your place tonight. Actually—" He paused, brows furrowing. "I'd rather you not go back there at all. At least, not alone." Kate hesitated. "You think someone's following me?" "I know someone is," he said. "And if they're sending threats, they're already too close." Greg rushed in from the hallway. "We've started a sweep of the press list and internal staff logs. Only 3 people would have had access to her file. HR, you, and—" "Marissa," Kate said quietly. Oliver looked up sharply. "What?" "She's watching," Kate said. "She wasn't surprised about us. She wasn't even angry. She was waiting, like she already knew it would fall apart." Oliver frowned. "I can't accuse her of something without proof." Kate held up her phone. "Start here." Greg stepped in again. "Security wants to move Kate now, out of the building, before anything else leaks." Oliver turned to her. "Come with me. Just until we figure this out." Kate hesitated, and then she nodded. Because as much as she hated feeling powerless, she hated the idea of going home to silence even more. They didn't go far, just across the city to a quiet townhouse Oliver kept, one that hadn't been lived in for months. The place was simple, modern, clean. A safe house built for moments when privacy mattered more than convenience. Kate sat on the edge of the couch, holding a mug she hadn't touched. Steam rose, untouched. Her fingers traced the rim over and over. Oliver stood near the window, phone to his ear, voice low and tense. When he finally hung up, he turned to her. "They're checking cameras near your building, and your phone's being traced for pings. It was a burner number, obviously." "Of course," she said quietly. "Whoever this is, they're good at hiding." "You're not hiding," Oliver said, walking over. "They are." She looked up at him. "You know I didn't do anything, right? I mean, whoever sent that text, the one that said, 'He doesn't know what you've done,' that's not real. I haven't done anything." Oliver's eyes softened. "Kate, I never doubted that for a second. But what if someone wants you to? What if they're trying to make it look like I'm lying to you?" He knelt beside her again, taking her hand. "Then they don't know you, and they sure as hell don't know me." His fingers wrapped around hers, warm, grounding. And for the first time since the photo, she felt her heart slow. But just as the tension began to settle, Kate's phone buzzed again, loud in the silence. Another unknown message. Oliver reached for it, but Kate beat him to it. One word, one line. "Apartment now." Below it, a live streaming link. Kate's hand trembled as she tapped. It was her building, her apartment door, live. From someone standing right in front of it, the video panned slowly, showing the hallway, the welcome mat, the number on the door. Then it cut out. Kate gasped. Oliver grabbed the phone. "We're calling the police." But before he could, the doorbell rang. Both of them froze. They weren't expecting anyone. Kate's breath caught again. "Who knows we're here?" "No one," Oliver said slowly, already reaching into a drawer for something. Not a weapon, but a small alert fob he kept for emergencies. He moved to the door, careful, silent, eyes narrowing as he checked the security camera. Then he opened it. Kate stood slowly, heart pounding, and then a familiar face appeared in the doorway. It was Jenna, Kate's best friend since college. Petite, blonde, always in sneakers and currently out of breath. Kate blinked. "Jenna?" "I came straight here," Jenna said, stepping inside. "I saw your name trending. I thought maybe you were hurt. Then I saw the video." "What video?" Oliver asked quickly. Jenna pulled out her phone. "It's already leaked." Kate stepped forward. And there it was, not the press conference, not the kiss, but the photo of her in her apartment, posted online, blurred slightly, but still unmistakably her. Caption: "This is who the CEO risked it all for? Scandal or setup?" "Anonymous source says she's not who she says she is." Kate's head swam. "I thought you should know," Jenna said softly. "Someone out there, they're playing dirty, and they're coming fast." Oliver's phone buzzed again. He looked down, and this time, his entire face changed. "I need a minute," he said. He stepped into the next room, closing the door. Kate turned to Jenna. "Why would they post that?" "I don't know," she said. "But that's not the only thing they're posting." Kate's stomach turned. "What?" Jenna hesitated. "There's a thread. Online. Someone's digging through your past. Old school records, financial aid documents, even a scholarship you won in freshman year. They're implying," she swallowed, "that you lied. That you used someone else's name to get in." Kate felt the world tilt. "I didn't," she whispered. "I didn't. I applied under my name, Jenna. Everything I had was real. I never—" "I believe you," Jenna said quickly. "But whoever this is, they're trying to rewrite your story." The door behind them opened again. Oliver stepped out, face unreadable, phone still in his hand. "They sent me something," he said quietly. Kate looked up at him. "What is it?" she asked. He held up the screen, and there it was, a document, an email from a financial aid office, marked as confidential, and at the bottom, a signature that wasn't hers. "Someone faked your file," Oliver said, "and they're making it look like you forged your way into college." Kate's legs gave out, and this time, he caught her before she hit the floor. Kate lay on the couch, curled up beneath a soft gray blanket, her breath shallow, her fingers clutching the edge like it was the only solid thing left in her life. The world outside moved fast, social media buzzing like hornets, headlines exploding, rumors turning from whispers into daggers. But in that room, everything was still, too still. Jenna sat nearby, phone in hand, updating a spreadsheet of names, bloggers, forums, fake accounts. Her fingers moved with silent fury. Oliver paced in the next room, talking to someone on the phone, voice sharp, clipped. Kate barely heard the words anymore, because all she could see was that signature, that one line of ink that wasn't hers, and yet was now being used to rewrite her past. She whispered into the stillness, "What if they believe it?" Jenna looked up. "Who?" "Everyone," Kate said, voice trembling. "What if no matter what I say, the lie is more interesting?" Jenna crossed the room, sitting on the edge of the couch. "You didn't fake anything, Kate. You worked through college. You lived off leftovers and 3-hour bus rides. You earned everything." "I know that," Kate said. "But they don't care. Not the internet, not the investors, not even his mother." Jenna's eyes darkened. "Then we remind them. We fight." Before Kate could answer, Oliver returned, quiet now. His sleeves were rolled up, tie gone, jaw tense. "They've traced the leak," he said. Kate sat up slowly. "Oh, who?" Oliver looked at her and said one name. "Michael Denton." Kate blinked. "Who?" "My former assistant," Oliver said, 2 years ago, fired for falsifying expense reports. But before he left, He still had access to archived staff files. Apparently he copied everything. Jenna's eyes widened. And now he's what? Selling it? Not selling, Oliver said. Leaking, intentionally, to hurt me, and he's using you to do it. Kate felt a new kind of weight settle on her chest. So this isn't even about me, not really. Oliver nodded. You were the easiest target, the one no one would suspect had enemies. Until now. Her stomach turned. Can you prove he faked that document? I've already got our legal team on it, but even with proof, the public damage is done, the story is out, and people don't wait for evidence anymore. Kate looked away. That was the part that scared her the most, not the lie, but how quickly people were ready to believe it, because in their minds, she didn't belong next to him, not in that press room, not in that kiss, not in his life. They'd been waiting for a reason to tear her down, and someone finally handed them one. I want to help, Kate said suddenly, sitting up straighter. Oliver stepped closer. Kate, you don't have to. No, she interrupted, voice firmer now. I'm not going to just sit here and cry while strangers destroy my name. I didn't climb out of nothing to be taken down by a bitter ex-assistant. Jenna gave a small smile. There she is. Oliver looked at her for a long second, then nodded slowly. All right, then we fight together. By noon, they were at Oliver's private office, a small floor above the main tower, used only when he needed to disappear. From here, they launched their counterattack. Kate dug through her own archives, scholarship letters, emails, even the envelope her acceptance letter came in. Jenna compiled timestamps, digital metadata, official school seals. Anything that could prove the original records were real. Greg worked with Oliver's legal team to draft a public statement that balanced facts with empathy. Not a denial, not a lecture, but the truth, wrapped in something people might actually listen to. Hours passed, and then a break. Jenna found it, a copy of Kate's original acceptance file, with the correct signature, time-stamped, digitally verified. Oliver stared at it for a moment before exhaling deeply. This changes everything. But even as he spoke, he looked tired. Not physically, emotionally, like he'd been carrying her pain alongside his own, and hadn't stopped to check if he was bleeding too. Kate reached for his hand. You okay? He nodded, then sat beside her. I keep thinking about the moment I kissed you. She turned to him, heart skipping. Why? Because I knew, he said, quietly, that once I did it, we couldn't go back. That no matter how careful I'd been before, that one moment would open the door for everyone to come after you. Her throat tightened. You think it was a mistake? He looked at her then, fully, deeply. No, I think it was the first honest thing I've done in years. Silence settled between them, not heavy, not awkward, just full of things neither of them could quite say yet. But then the elevator dinged. Greg burst in, face pale. They just escalated. Oliver stood. What happened? Greg handed him a phone. Michael Denton just posted a video. Kate's heart dropped. Of what? Greg looked at her, hesitant. Of you, he said. Oliver tapped the screen. The video opened with Michael's face, smug, rehearsed, then cut to security footage from the building. Kate handing Oliver a file, smiling, laughing quietly. Overlay text in bold. Is this just business or something more? Then it cut again. To footage from the gala, her adjusting his tie, picking lint off his jacket, edited just enough to look romantic, followed by, she didn't just steal his heart, she stole her way into his office. Kate blinked. That's all edited. That's not even what happened. Oliver threw the phone down. He's trying to make you look like you seduced your way in. Kate turned away, her hands shaking. How do I fight that? It's not even a lie. It just twisted pieces of the truth. Jenna's voice came quietly from the corner. You don't just defend yourself anymore. You go on offense. Oliver nodded. It's time to expose him. He looked at Kate. You okay going public? She hesitated, then nodded. Let's tell the whole story from the beginning." Greg smiled. "Then you're going live in an hour." Kate looked out the window. The city glowed below. Loud, messy, impossible. But for the first time, she wasn't afraid of it. Not with Oliver beside her, and not when she finally had the truth. But as they prepared for the broadcast, Kate's phone buzzed once more. A final message from the same unknown number. "Truth won't save you. I know what happened in Chicago." She froze. Her stomach dropped because she knew what that meant, and Oliver didn't yet. Kate stood by the window, the glow of the city brushing her face in fragments of gold and steel blue. Behind her, the room moved in whispers. Jenna organizing files, Greg running logistics, Oliver speaking quietly with his legal team. But all Kate could hear was the pounding of her heart. That message hadn't been random. "I know what happened in Chicago." Her fingers curled against the window pane. Chicago. A place she hadn't spoken about in 3 years, a chapter she'd buried so deep, even Jenna didn't know the full truth. She turned slowly, forcing her face to stay neutral, calm, unshaken. But Oliver noticed. Of course he did. He stepped away from his call, walking toward her. "Kate, what is it?" She opened her mouth. And for the first time in hours, she didn't have words, not clear ones, not safe ones. Instead, she handed him her phone. He read the message. His brows furrowed. "Chicago?" She nodded once, slowly. Oliver's voice dropped to something gentler. "Talk to me." Kate looked past him, into the swirling city lights. And then she spoke. "I was 19, she began. "It was a summer internship, my first one. I was desperate to make it work. It was unpaid in Chicago, and I took a side job to survive, waiting tables at night just to afford bus fare and food." Oliver stayed quiet, giving her space. "There was a guy in my department, older, charming, one of the senior analysts. Everyone liked him. He offered to mentor me, help me get better projects, said he saw something in me." Oliver's jaw tensed. Kate's voice tightened. "I believed him. I thought he really wanted to help." She took a deep breath. "Then one night, he followed me home. He said he wanted to talk through some work ideas. I told him I was tired. He didn't listen." Oliver's eyes darkened. Kate looked down. "Nothing happened. I mean, not the way you might think. But he got inside, cornered me, tried to kiss me. I shoved him off, screamed until the neighbors came out." She swallowed. "I filed a complaint. HR said there wasn't enough proof. His story, that I had invited him over, that I'd sent signals." Oliver was silent, but his hand found hers, not demanding, just there, holding. "They offered to keep it quiet, said if I agreed not to escalate, I could keep my letter of recommendation, finish the internship. They said if I made noise, no one would hire me again, especially girls like me." Oliver's voice was low. "And you agreed?" "I was 19, she said, eyes filling. "I was scared, alone. I signed the paper and walked away." Oliver's grip tightened. "You shouldn't have had to carry that alone." Kate blinked back the sting in her eyes. "It's followed me in the smallest ways. Every job, every interview, I kept waiting for someone to bring it up, to ruin me with it, but it never came. Until now." Oliver turned toward Greg and Jenna. "Shut everything down. The live broadcast can wait." "No," Kate said quickly. "No, that's what they want. For me to hide, to shrink." Jenna stepped forward, eyes wide. "Kate, if this goes public, I want to be the one to tell it," she said firmly. "If I let someone else spin it, it becomes a weapon. But if I say it first, it's mine." Oliver looked at her for a long, tense beat, then nodded. An hour later, Kate sat in front of the camera, her face clean, no makeup, hair tucked behind her ears. Simple, real. Oliver stood just out of frame, Jenna beside him, watching with both pride and fear. Greg gave her a thumbs up. "We're live in Thuatu." And then the red light blinked on. Kate took a breath. "My name is Kate Morgan," she said softly. "You may have seen my name in headlines today. There have been rumors, accusations, even forged documents trying to paint me as someone I'm not." She paused. "I'm not here to clear my name. I'm here to tell you who I am." She told them everything: the internship, the incident, the silence, the signature she gave under pressure, the fear she lived with, the choices she made to survive, not to climb, not to deceive, but to keep going. And finally she said, "I didn't speak back then because I didn't think my voice mattered. But I know better now. And if you think my past disqualifies me from being beside someone like Oliver, then maybe he's not the one you should be questioning. Because he's the kind of man who listens, who believes, who stands beside truth even when it's inconvenient." She leaned forward slightly. "I'm not perfect. I'm not from privilege. But I am not a lie." Then she ended with one line. "You don't get to define me with fear anymore." She looked into the camera and ended the stream. Silence filled the room when the feed cut. Then Jenna stepped forward and hugged her tight, whispering, "You did it." Oliver didn't speak, just held her hand with both of his, eyes glassy but proud. Greg's phone buzzed a second later. He looked down and then smiled. "Comments are flooding in," he said. "Support. Women sharing their own stories, reporters retracting headlines. Denton's video just got flagged for manipulation." But before anyone could celebrate, a new alert came through. Kate's phone buzzed again, this time from a real number. And a name. Eleanor Hart, Oliver's mother. Kate stared at it, then answered. "Kate," Eleanor's voice came, sharp but careful. "We need to talk." Kate swallowed. "Why?" "Because someone just came to my office," Eleanor said. Kate froze. "He says he has proof Oliver can't ignore," she continued. "Proof that you lied about more than just Chicago." Oliver stepped closer, reading Kate's face. "What is it? What did she say?" Kate lowered the phone, her hand cold. "He said he has something that can end your career," she whispered. Oliver's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Kate looked up, her voice barely above a breath. "Your father." Oliver stared at her, frozen. "My father?" Kate nodded slowly. "Eleanor said he came to her office today with something about me." Oliver stepped back like he'd been punched in the gut. Kate reached for him. I didn't even realize he was still involved with the company." "He's not," Oliver said quietly. "Not officially." Jenna glanced up from the corner. "Wait, your dad's Robert Hart? The Robert Hart?" Oliver didn't answer. Didn't need to. Everyone in the room already knew. Robert Hart, business tycoon, founder of Hart Corp, media magnate in the 80s and 90s, and now, a quiet shadow behind the curtain. Kate took a slow breath. "Is he dangerous?" Oliver didn't respond at first. He just walked to the window, staring out like the skyline might offer an answer. Finally, he said, "He's strategic, ruthless, obsessed with legacy. He thinks love is weakness, emotion, a liability." He looked over his shoulder. And he never liked anyone who reminded him he was human. Kate felt a cold ripple move through her. "What does he want from me?" Oliver turned fully toward her now, his voice lower. "To hurt me." Jenna frowned. "By hurting Kate?" "Exactly." Oliver nodded. "He always said I was too soft to run Hart Corp, too loyal, too impressionable. You showing up in my life, earning real power beside me, threatens everything he believes." Greg, who had been listening silently until now, finally stepped forward. "Should we release a counter-statement? Discredit him preemptively?" "No," Oliver said. "That's what he wants. A fight in public, where he's louder." Kate looked down at her hands. "But he claims he has proof I lied." Oliver turned to her. "There's nothing left to find, Kate. You've been through every part of your life with a magnifying glass. Unless—" He stopped. A thought flickered across his face. "Unless—" "It's not about you," he said. "It's about me." Kate blinked. "What do you mean?" I think he's about to twist something I did and make it look like you were behind it. Greg frowned. Like what? Oliver hesitated, then turned to Kate. There's something I never told anyone, not even Greg, not even my mother. Kate's heart dropped. Back when you first applied for the assistant position, he said slowly, your resume came through with about 100 others, but yours, I paused on it. She tilted her head. You mean you chose it? He nodded. I recognized your name, not from a resume, not from school, from a volunteer event I'd seen you speak at. You were raising funds for low-income student grants. You stood in front of 100 business leaders and told your story. No notes, no polish, just raw truth. You moved the room. Kate blinked, stunned. I remembered you. When your name showed up later, I sent an internal message, just one line. Consider closely, not a command, not favoritism, but I nudged it. He looked away, ashamed. Robert could twist that, he said. Make it sound like I gave you the job because of a secret connection, like you manipulated your way into the company. Kate felt her mouth go dry. Did you? Jenna asked gently. Did you ever know? Kate shook her head. No, I had no idea he even remembered me. Greg cursed under his breath. That's all Denton or Robert would need. A seed of doubt. Kate's voice was quiet. Then he's not after just my name, he's after your soul. Oliver gave a tired smile. He's tried before. That night, Eleanor called again. Kate hesitated before answering, but Oliver nodded. Take it. She did. Kate, Eleanor said, her voice calmer now. He's not playing. He has files, emails, even a photo from that event. The fundraiser. You and Oliver, in the same room. Kate's heart skipped. We weren't even talking. He doesn't care. He has the pieces. He'll assemble them to tell the story he wants. Kate looked over at Oliver. What does he want from us? Eleanor paused. To break you. Quietly, before you can reshape this company in ways he can't control. There was silence. Then Eleanor said something that surprised Kate to her core. I don't like being wrong, she said, but I think I was. Kate swallowed. About me? No, Eleanor replied. About you and Oliver, I thought you were a distraction. But now I see something else. You're the first person who's ever made him fight for something real. Kate didn't know how to answer that. I don't approve, Eleanor added, her tone still crisp, but I understand. Then she hung up. Kate stood in the stillness, the dial tone echoing in her ear. Later, she sat with Oliver on the small rooftop terrace of his private office. The city shimmered below them. I don't want to be your weakness, she said softly. He turned to her, eyes serious. You're not. I don't want to cost you everything. You're the only thing in my life that isn't a cost, he said. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out an envelope. What's this? She asked. He handed it to her. Inside, a copy of the board's most recent proposal, and at the bottom, Kate Morgan, Special Advisor to the CEO. She looked up, stunned. I was going to give it to you after the storm, he said. But now, I think the storm is where it belongs. Kate's eyes welled. You're serious? I want you beside me, he said. Not behind me, not in the background, beside. But before she could speak, Oliver's phone buzzed, and his face dropped. Kate's voice shook. What now? He turned the screen to her. A new article, published anonymously. Exclusive internal memo suggests Kate Morgan was groomed for position by CEO before hiring. Secret relationship timeline exposed. Below it, a blurry photo of the volunteer event and another image, Kate. Leaning slightly toward Oliver in the elevator from weeks ago. Text beneath it. Was it always more than work? Kate's chest tightened. They had officially crossed the line. They weren't just twisting truth anymore. They were rewriting it from inside. The headline spread like wildfire. In minutes, the article was shared across every platform. Tweets, blogs, anonymous forums, all spinning the same angle. Kate Morgan wasn't an underdog. She was a carefully placed piece in a game she hadn't even known she was playing. Kate sat at the long boardroom table in Oliver's office, her phone face down, her throat dry. The silence was louder than any shout. Greg was the first to speak. "This leak came from inside." Oliver looked up sharply. "You're sure?" Greg nodded. "It references a board memo, one that only went to 5 people. We tracked the metadata. It was copied from a secure folder, then sent to a private email address under a fake domain." Jenna paced in the corner. "So someone close to you handed this over?" Kate felt a chill rush over her. "It wasn't just a betrayal. It was intentional. Someone wants me gone." Greg leaned over his tablet. "We cross-referenced access logs. The memo was downloaded on a device connected to the private network in the East boardroom." Oliver frowned. "There's only one person who works out of that boardroom during off hours." Greg nodded. "Marissa Dean." Kate exhaled shakily. "She's still on the advisory board, right?" "Technically," Oliver said, "but she hasn't made a move in months." "She was waiting," Kate murmured, "just like she was during the press conference. She's been planning this." Greg looked between them. "She still has enough pull to call for a vote of no confidence. If she convinces the other investors that Kate was promoted through favoritism, she'll try to remove me," Oliver finished, "or force me to remove Kate." Jenna stepped forward. "So we hit her back. Go public with the truth. Leak the surveillance from her login. Expose her for the leak." Kate shook her head. "That won't change what she's suggesting. People believe what they want. They'll say we're retaliating." Oliver looked at Kate. "Then we go to the board ourselves, directly. No leaks, just facts." Kate hesitated. "You want to face them?" "No," he said, voice quiet. "We face them, together." 2 hours later, Kate stood outside the main conference hall at HartCorp. The board was already seated. 12 chairs, 12 people who would decide whether she was what the press said she was or something more. She looked down at her reflection in the glass. She wasn't the girl who started in the copy room. She wasn't the assistant quietly hoping to be noticed. She had survived threats, lies, exposure, and she was still standing. Oliver stepped beside her, adjusting the cuff of his suit. "You ready?" "No," she whispered, then smiled faintly. "But let's go anyway." They entered together. The room fell quiet. Marissa was already seated at the far end of the table, legs crossed, eyes sharp, lips curved in a tight, satisfied smile. "Well," she said, voice smooth, "isn't this poetic? The couple arrives." Oliver didn't rise to the bait. "Let's not waste time." The chairperson, a soft-spoken woman named Miriam Cho, cleared her throat. "We've been made aware of an anonymous leak suggesting that Miss Morgan was placed in a strategic position due to a pre-existing romantic relationship with the CEO." Kate looked around the room, some eyes sympathetic, others cold. Miriam continued, "We're not here to evaluate your personal choices, but whether your conduct has compromised the integrity of this institution." Oliver stepped forward. "Then I'll start." He laid out the timeline, from the fundraiser where he first heard her speak, to the hiring process, to the press conference, to the leaked internal documents. Then Kate stepped up. And this time, she didn't just defend herself. She reclaimed herself. "I've worked every day of my life since I was 16, she said. "I applied to HartCorp without a single connection, without a whisper of expectation. I earned every late night, every coffee run, every spreadsheet no one wanted to finish." She looked directly at Marissa. "I didn't fall into this seat. I fought my way into it." Marissa gave a slow clap. "Beautiful speech, but boardrooms aren't built on inspiration. They're built on trust. And the truth is, she got here because you wanted her here." Oliver turned to her. "Then I'll ask you this. If recommending a qualified, capable candidate is a crime, how many careers have you influenced in the exact same way?" Marissa's eyes narrowed. Oliver pressed on. "You want to talk about manipulation? Let's talk about the file you leaked. You accessed a secure board document. You copied it. You leaked it to the press." He nodded to Greg, who who pressed a button on the tablet, and Marissa's login activity filled the screen on the projector. Every download, every transfer, tracked and time-stamped, Greg added. Gasps murmured across the boardroom. Marissa stood slowly. "This is a deflection." Miriam raised her hand. "Sit down, Ms. Dean." Marissa froze and slowly sat. Kate stepped forward one last time. "I'm not asking for a title. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm asking for fairness. If my work isn't enough, then remove me. But do it for real reasons. Not because I fell for someone I met after I earned my place." Miriam glanced around the room. All those in favor of allowing Miss Morgan to retain her role and clear her name? Hands went up, one by one, until all 12 chairs were counted. Miriam nodded. Motion carried. Kate exhaled, a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding for days. Oliver reached for her hand beneath the table. Just one squeeze, quiet, steady. But as the room dispersed and the chaos slowly unraveled, Kate caught Marissa's expression. She wasn't angry. She was smiling, not triumphant, but like someone who hadn't played her last card yet. Kate's blood went cold, and when they stepped into the elevator, her phone buzzed once more. No message, just a file, a photo of Kate with a man, someone she hadn't seen in years, the analyst from Chicago. Oliver looked at the screen, and Kate whispered, "How do they have this?" Oliver's face went hard. "They've been planning this longer than we thought." Kate stared at the photo. She knew that man. The sharp eyes, the faint smirk, the expensive shirt rolled at the sleeves like he owned every room he entered. Ryan Caldwell. Her stomach turned just thinking the name. Oliver took the phone gently from her hand, analyzing the image. "Is this him?" Kate nodded slowly. "That's the analyst I told you about. The one from Chicago." The photo wasn't graphic. It showed them sitting on a bench in the park near her old apartment. Her face was tense, turned away. His hand was on her shoulder, mid-gesture, not intimate, but framed like it was. The timestamp on the corner, 3 days before the incident. Jenna, watching from over Kate's shoulder, squinted. "This photo, it looks like it was taken from a distance, like someone was following you, even back then." Kate's voice shook. "I always thought I was being paranoid. After I reported him, I kept seeing flashes, people watching, cars slowing down, but I thought it was just stress." Greg frowned. If this image just surfaced now, someone held onto it for years, waiting. Why? Oliver's voice was low. "Because they're not just after her name anymore. They're trying to erase her credibility, and they're digging through her past because nothing she's doing in the present is giving them leverage." He turned to Kate. "We can shut this down. I'll go to our legal team. Every platform. We'll demand takedowns." "No," Kate interrupted. "I want to talk to him." Oliver blinked. "What?" "If he's involved in this, or if someone's using him to paint a new narrative, I want to look him in the eye. I want to know how far this goes." Jenna stepped closer. "Kate, are you sure? After everything he put you through?" "I'm not scared of him anymore," Kate said, voice quiet but solid. "And I'm tired of letting people write my story for me." Greg looked hesitant but nodded. "We can arrange it quietly. I'll find out where he is." 2 days later, Kate sat across from Ryan Caldwell in a downtown hotel lobby. Neutral ground, quiet, with security seated nearby just out of sight. Jenna and Oliver waited in the next room. He looked older now, more tired, but the arrogance in his smirk hadn't aged a day. "Well, well," Ryan said as he leaned back in his chair, "the girl I mentored into silence." Kate's fingers curled around her cup. "I should have known you'd grow teeth someday," he added. "I should have known you were always a snake," she shot back. Ryan laughed softly. "You've gotten bold." "No," Kate said, eyes sharp. "I've gotten free." He paused at that, then pulled something slowly from his jacket, a flash drive, but didn't hand it over. He let it dangle from one finger like bait. "You're here for this, aren't you?" Kate's heart pounded. "What is it?" The original footage, he said. The one that proves I was never just being friendly. Her throat tightened. You recorded it? I recorded everything back then, he said flatly. Control comes from leverage, and you were unpredictable. I was afraid, Kate said, and you knew it. Ryan leaned forward, eyes colder now. I also knew you'd come back. People like you, soft, quiet, trying to play brave, always come back. She didn't flinch. Not for you, for the truth. Truth? He smirked. There is no truth. There's just what people are willing to believe. And I'm done letting you write the story. Ryan spun the flash drive once between his fingers. A week ago, someone offered me money to release it. Said your name was getting too clean, too powerful. Kate's voice was razor sharp. Marissa, he shrugged. Didn't ask, didn't need to. I recognize a hatchet job when I smell it. So why are you giving it to me now? Because I don't like being someone else's puppet, and as much as I enjoyed ruining you back then. He leaned in. I never thought you'd actually make something of yourself. That's the real surprise. He set the drive on the table, not gently. Take it. But remember, I gave you power once, and I can take it back. Kate stared at him, unblinking, unmoved. You never gave me anything, she said, and you can't take what you never owned. She picked up the drive slowly, carefully. This ends now. No more interviews, no more hints. If I hear your name in my shadow again, he raised a brow. What? You'll sue me? No, she said. I'll end you legally and publicly, in the same silence you once counted on. He didn't respond. She turned and walked out, no rush, no fear. Just before the door closed behind her, he called out, You really did earn it, you know. But Kate didn't look back. She walked straight into Oliver's arms outside. That night, Kate released the footage, not to shame, not to expose, but to protect. A brief edited statement from her explained the context, the date, the truth, that she had reported him, that the video had been buried, that the people twisting her story no longer held the pen. Within hours, the headlines shifted. Kate Morgan reclaims her narrative. Footage reveals truth behind false scandal. Support pours in for CEO's courageous advisor. Kate watched quietly as the internet, the same force that once tried to break her, now began to rally around her. But just as she allowed herself to exhale, Oliver's phone rang. He answered, and his face dropped. What is it? Kate asked. He lowered the phone, stunned. My father? Kate's breath caught. What did he say? Oliver looked at her, voice tight. He just called an emergency shareholder meeting, and he's bringing Marissa with him. Kate froze. He's going to try to vote me out, Oliver said. Her voice came out as a whisper. Tonight? No, Oliver said, jaw clenched. Right now. The private elevator rose with a slow, quiet hum, but the tension inside was anything but silent. Oliver stood in the center, one hand clenched, the other in his pocket, barely blinking. Kate stood beside him, calm on the outside, but her heart was racing. She had seen him in meetings, in courtrooms, in front of cameras, but not like this. This wasn't the CEO, this was the son, and he was about to face the one man who had built everything around him and threatened to take it all away. As the elevator doors opened, the boardroom ahead was already full. Rows of polished chairs, sleek walls of glass. All 12 shareholders, silent, waiting. And at the head of the room, just settling into a leather-backed chair, sat Robert Hart. He looked exactly as the world remembered him, tall, silver-haired, composed, a man who never needed to raise his voice because power radiated from his silence. Marissa sat beside him, legs crossed, her fingers tapping lightly on the table, calm, triumphant. Oliver walked forward first. Kate followed, not behind him this time, but beside, not an accessory, and not a symbol, an equal. Robert's eyes scanned her as she sat. So, he said, his voice like glass over gravel, this is the girl who made you forget everything I taught you. Oliver didn't flinch. She's the woman who made me remember who I actually am. Robert's lips curled slightly. You've always been emotional. Oliver, it made you weak. I let you run this company to prove a point, and look where we are. Headlines, scandal, PR disasters, romances with assistants. Kate sat up straighter. I was never a secret. Robert ignored her. You don't build empires with feelings. You build them with silence, with strategy, with control. Oliver's eyes narrowed. You built an empire that never felt like home. People followed you because they were scared, not because they trusted you. Robert leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. And yet, they followed. Marissa spoke next, voice smooth. Oliver, we called this meeting to give you a choice. You step down quietly and let someone more stable lead HeartCorp forward, or we vote. Kate looked around the table. She could feel the hesitation in the room, a few loyal to Oliver, others still unsure. The article, the video, the perception. Oliver stood slowly. Let's put the real offer on the table. You want me out so you can spin this company back into a machine, one without conscience, one without resistance. Robert's tone sharpened. You're too sentimental. You bend to the media. You fall in love with employees. You treat weakness like it's a badge of honor. I treat people like people, Oliver said. And that's the future this company needs. Robert stood too now. You forget whose name is on the building. Oliver looked around the room at every pair of eyes, watching, calculating. Then he turned to Kate, and in front of everyone, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded slip of paper. He unfolded it slowly and slid it across the table. Shareholder Proposal 118B, he said. Effective immediately, a motion to restructure the executive board with Kate Morgan as Chief Strategy Officer. A quiet gasp moved through the room. Marissa's smile froze. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious, Oliver said, voice calm. If we're talking about legacy, then let's talk about the one I want to leave behind. Kate blinked, stunned. Oliver, you earned this, he said simply. Robert's expression didn't shift, but his jaw clenched. Miriam, the board chair, cleared her throat. We'll vote. First on the motion to remove Mr. Hart as CEO, then on Proposal 118B. One by one, hands went up. Robert didn't look around. He didn't need to. He could feel it. 5, 7, 10, 12. Unanimous. Oliver remained standing. I won't stay in a company that believes love is weakness or that power must come at the cost of empathy. Kate looked up at him, startled. Oliver. He turned to her with a small, quiet smile. But I believe in you. Miriam looked to the room. On Proposal 118B, Kate Morgan as CSO. Hands lifted again. 11. Then slowly, 12. Even Robert. Kate blinked, stunned. You... Robert cut her off. You've already won. No need to gloat. She stared at him. Why would you vote for me? Robert looked at his son, then back at her. And for the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Respect? Regret. I built an empire of shadows, he said. Maybe it's time someone lit the damn thing up. Then he turned and walked out. Marissa didn't follow. She sat frozen in her seat, dethroned not by scandal, but by truth. For a moment, her face was unreadable, like a chess player caught one move too late. Then, slowly, she rose from her seat, smoothing the front of her blazer. As she walked past Kate, she paused. This isn't over, she said quietly. Kate met her eyes, calm, unshaken. Then you haven't learned a thing, Kate replied. Marissa's expression faltered for the first time, and then without another word, she turned and left. Later that evening, Kate stood at the edge of the rooftop again, wind brushing her hair, city lights flickering like stars that refused to die out. Oliver joined her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. You could have kept the title, she said softly. I don't need it, he replied. I built what I needed. Then I almost let it destroy me. She looked at him, eyes full. "And now?" He stepped closer. "Now I know what I want to build next." He reached into his jacket. "Not a ring, not yet, but a small silver key." "To the townhouse," he said. "To my world." "To our world," she whispered. He smiled. "Only if you're still crazy enough to want it." She looked up at him, eyes soft, voice steady. "I never wanted the power," she said, "just the truth. And I finally have both." He leaned down slowly, brushing his lips against hers. No cameras this time. No crowd, no headlines, just them. Together. Real. The sun peeked through the skyline, washing Hartcorp's upper floors in soft gold. Morning light drifted across Kate's new office. Sleek, minimal, warm. A delicate vase of fresh orchids stood on her desk beside a handwritten note from Miriam. "You didn't just change the company, you changed the way we lead." Kate read it again and again. Her promotion hadn't been about the kiss or the headlines. The board had seen the way she'd worked, quietly, strategically behind the scenes, and the mentors on the council had rallied behind her. It wasn't sudden. It was earned. This morning wasn't just a new beginning. It was hers. The door creaked open. Oliver stepped in, 2 coffees in hand, hair slightly tousled, his suit jacket slung over one shoulder. There was something different in him now, still powerful, still poised, but lighter, like someone who had finally set something down after carrying it for too long. He handed her the cup. "Cream and 2 sugars. I finally memorized it." She smiled. "Took you long enough." He leaned against the edge of her desk. "How's the new role feel?" Kate exhaled. "Like I was never meant to be behind the curtain." He nodded. "You weren't." There was a quiet moment between them. Then Oliver tilted his head slightly, a teasing glint in his eyes. "So, am I allowed to flirt with the chief strategy officer, or is that considered wildly inappropriate?" Kate grinned. "Only if she gets the final say in all major decisions." "Oh, absolutely," he said. That was always going to happen. They both laughed. But beneath it, a deeper current ran, one of knowing, of surviving something together that no title, no headline, no deal could ever fully explain. Kate looked around. "You think they'll accept me here?" He took her hand. "They already do. You didn't just survive a scandal, you rewrote the way people see strength. And vulnerability." Her eyes shimmered, but she blinked it back. "You made space for me, even when it cost you everything." He smiled. "No. You filled a space I didn't know was empty." A few weeks later, Kate stood on stage at the Hart Foundation Gala, a place she used to stand quietly in the corner, unnoticed, taking coats or typing names into check-in lists. Now she held the mic. "And to every young woman out there," she said, voice steady, "who's been told she's too quiet, too soft, too ordinary to matter, I'm here to say they were wrong." The room rose in applause. From the front table, Oliver stood first, Jenna beside him clapping proudly. Even Eleanor, dignified as ever, nodded. Subtle, but real. Kate stepped off the stage into a sea of faces. Investors, reporters, interns who once looked through her. Now they saw her. Really saw her. Later that night, back at the townhouse, Kate kicked off her shoes and collapsed onto the couch. Oliver walked in, sleeves rolled up, a rare bottle of wine in one hand. "I've got a proposal," he said. "Is it financial? Possibly emotional?" She sat up. "Go on." He poured 2 glasses and handed her one, then reached into the drawer of the coffee table and pulled out a worn folder. "What's that?" He opened it, revealing a blueprint, not of an office, not of a company, of a home. "Our place," he said, "not for the headlines, not to escape. Just because I want to build something with you, from scratch, our rules, our way." Kate stared at it, heart full. He looked nervous, a first for him. "I know we're not rushing anything," he added quickly. "This isn't a ring. It's just a start, a foundation, like everything else we fought for." Kate set her wine down. leaned in, and kissed him, not for show, not for proof, but because there was nothing left to say. When they pulled apart, she whispered, "Let's build it together." Epilogue. 6 months later, the company had shifted. More women on the board, more transparency across leadership, more heart at the center of decisions. Kate sat in a sunlit meeting room, reviewing scholarship applications for the new Heart Initiative, a program she helped create for students like her, underestimated, overworked, and wildly deserving. A photo sat framed on her desk, not of her and Oliver at some gala, but of her, 19 years old, standing at that Chicago fundraiser in a too-big blazer, gripping her note cards with trembling hands. She kept it there to remember, not the fear, but the courage, the start of it all. A soft knock came at the door. Oliver leaned in, smiling. "Ready for lunch?" "Only if it's not sushi again," she teased. He laughed. "Deal." They walked down the hall side by side, not as CEO and assistant, not as scandal and damage control, but as partners. Two people who refused to let the world shrink them into silence. Two people who chose each other, again and again. The end. Now tell me, have you ever been underestimated and proven everyone wrong just by being yourself? Tell me your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you rewrote your own ending.